Hello students, today we're going to do a very simple activity that will just take you a few minutes. We are going to take a line on a walk. All you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. If you have crayons, that would be great too. And I'm going to pretend that my pencil is going on a walk around either my house or my neighborhood. We can pretend it was walking around the school too. So I'm gonna try the neighborhood. Our house. So my pencil is going to go on a walk. It's going to start here. I'm walking in the front door, and I'm going to go into the kitchen and see what's going on. If there's anything being fixed to eat. Then I'm going to walk down and take a peek out the window in the den, and then go over here, and I'm going to check out my sister's room, and she says go away. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to check in Mom and Dad's room, see if one of them's in there, and say hey. Gonna go down to my room. Maybe I'm going to get some stuff to take and go maybe back down, and maybe I'll go outside onto the porch. And it's a pretty day, so I'll stay out there. Alright, so I've had my line go on a walk, and now I can make some interesting pictures, either using my crayons to color in what I have, my different shapes. And so if you have crayons, colored pencils, anything like that, then you can color in each little section, and you give your own abstract art. I try to make sure that each one of mine is a different color, or at the very least, if I have just a few colors, then I try not to let the same colors be right next to each other, because it makes the picture a lot more interesting. And of course, every time you do this, you could do it with a small piece of paper. And every time you do it, it's going to be a little bit different. So this is one way to do it. There's another way you can color in your shapes that you've created once your line goes on a walk wherever it's going. You could shade it in. Now this is a whole lot more difficult. Here I've gone really, really dark. I might even go back over it and make it even darker. See, I can even make it even darker. Look at that. It's a shiny. It's so dark. I've got one really light here. Then I try to do a medium. And how you do all these it depends on how you press down on your pencil. This is a really, really good skill to have when you start drawing more complicated things. Still lifes, which like maybe you have flowers there, or maybe you have an apple and you're wanting to try to shade it. To be able to do lightly with your pencil, or to be able to press very hard with your pencil, those are really good things to know how to do when it comes to creating your works of art. So this could be a way of practicing that. As I said, it's a lot harder than using the crayons, because you have to really think about it. If you want each one of the ones next to each one of the shapes next to each other to look a little different, then you definitely want to press down differently. So see, that's a little different than the other two right next to it. It's a little darker than this one, and it's lighter than this one. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, this is a really good activity if you have just a few minutes and you want to relax. It can be a very relaxing thing to do. Just think of it as almost like a doodle. And as I said, you continue and finish it, and you'll have your own abstract type of design, and they'll all be different. and I hope you enjoy this activity and that I get to see you soon. If not, hopefully with some practice, I will have another video for you to see. Thank you.
Hello, Knox County students. I am Miss Burchett, and I'm here today to teach you about an art form that comes from Ukrainia. I'm going to show you a map of where Ukrainia is. It's in Europe, so you'd have to go across the Atlantic Ocean to get there from here. And in Ukrainia and lots of other Eastern European countries, they make a special kind of decorated egg. These are called pisanka eggs in Ukraine, and sometimes they're made around Easter time. Sometimes they're just made in the spring. You might make one of these to give to someone as a gift. They're covered in decorations and designs. Those all mean something. I'll show you a chart of what some of the symbols on these eggs might mean when you're thinking about making your own designs. The people who first made these eggs were often farmers, so crops and animals that they might hunt were popular design choices. You can think of these as a wish that you might give to someone, and oftentimes you are wishing them good fortune or a good hunt. They are made with a process that's called wax resist. My students know about wax resist because we do it sometimes with crayons and paint, and you'll have a chance to make your own designs using a wax resist process. I'm going to demonstrate for you how real Ukrainian Easter eggs are made first. I thought you might enjoy it. And then later I'll show you how you can make something similar at home using paper and paints. Here we go. These are all Ukrainian Easter egg decorations that I have done on real eggshells. There's a real egg. It's raw. It hasn't been cooked like a lot of eggs that you see decorated. I'm using beeswax. Beeswax is really soft. It smells like honey, and it's used because it melts very easily. That's a special tool called a kitska. Kitska is a Ukrainian word. It means chicken bone. So my guess is maybe these tools were once made out of chicken bone. It's basically a little funnel. The beeswax goes in the top and then it's melted over a candle. So this is definitely not something that we would do in school, and you probably wouldn't be able to do it at home. I'm just demonstrating so you can get the idea. Now that my wax has melted, it's time to draw on the egg. I'm drawing on the white egg, so these designs that I'm making will stay white. That wax is protecting that part of the egg, and it's going to keep it white. If that doesn't make sense right now, that's okay. Hopefully you'll be able to see it at the end. I'm just making some lines. A lot of the Ukrainian designs begin with dividing the egg, so there's a lot of math involved. We're dividing our egg into angles. And then I'm going to add some leaf designs, since growth and growing things and plants were often popular design choices. Those would show that you're wishing someone good fortune and growth in the coming year. When I've made all the designs that I want on the white egg, it's time to dye the egg. When we make Ukrainian egg designs, we always start with our lightest color first, so I'm dyeing my egg yellow. When the egg has been dyed the first color, it's time to add some more wax designs. My first wax designs were on a white egg, so those lines and leaves are going to stay white because the wax is protecting that color. Now I'm making dots on a yellow egg. The dots of wax are protecting the yellow color, so those dots are going to stay yellow. It might be hard to see right now, but at the end we'll melt the wax off. Now I'm dyeing my egg the next color. I'm going from yellow to orange to red. Now I'm going to make some designs on the red egg. I've decided to make some flower petals. I'm going to turn those dots into flowers. Again, things that grow were a popular choice for showing that you hoped someone had a good crop or good growth in the next year. Ukrainian eggs can be dyed as many colors as you choose, and each time you dye a new color, you add a little more wax so your design gets a little more colorful. Because of this process, you work from lightest to darkest, and the eggs end up with their darkest colors as the background color. I chose to use blue as my final color. The last step is definitely one that we would not try in school, and it would be difficult to do at home, so I'm just demonstrating. We're melting and then wiping the wax away to reveal the beautiful colors underneath. You can see the white lines, the red flowers with the yellow centers. Since we can't do all of the steps involved in Ukrainian egg decorating at home, I'm going to show you a way that you can do a wax resist process, the same process that was used on the egg, where we apply wax to preserve a color. We're just going to do it using paper and crayons and some paint or some dye. To make our own at-home version of Ukrainian pasanka eggs, we're going to use a piece of paper, some wax crayons, and some watercolor paints. And we're doing a technique that's called wax resist. I'm going to start with a light colored crayon. You could do wax resist with any color crayon, but the lighter colors make this really magical transformation happen. If I had a white crayon, that would be the most magical of a transformation, but I don't, so I'm just going to use this light colored peach. I can do this to make any kind of design that I want. I'm going to try writing something. And if I was using a white crayon, I wouldn't really be able to see that very well. And so it's really going to be like writing with invisible ink. If I want to make an egg design, I could start by drawing an oval to be my egg shape. And then I'm going to draw some designs. I'm going to think about my line patterns. There's a wavy line, a straight line, a zigzag line, or we could be like the Ukrainians and maybe we're going to draw some designs that have meaning. I'm going to make some leaf designs because leaves mean things are growing, and growth is always a good thing. We're learning and we're growing. Let's see, I'm going to make some flowers at the top because flowers are a wonderful gift from spring. That'll be a neat design too. So you can do an egg design and decorate it, or you could just have some fun drawing things that you like with your wax crayon. I'm pressing kind of hard to make sure I'm getting some wax on my paper, because what's going to happen is the wax is going to resist the paints. Resist means stop. It's going to stop the paints from getting to the paper, but the paper will soak up the paints. So when I make my watercolors, remember watercolors, we have to add water and kind of stir it up to activate those paints. When I paint across my design, as long as there's enough water, you can see that the wax resisted the water, resisted the color. The wax kind of pushed it out of the way. And then you can see your design. I can switch colors if I want to. I'm going to get some purple over here. And when I paint on top of my designs, the wax pushes the color out of the way. Especially if I was using something like white, it would really make it show up. If your wax design is not showing up, try adding a little extra water for the wax to push out of the way. And then over here where I've got my Easter egg design, if I want to make an egg decoration, I can take my colors and maybe I'm going to make stripes, or maybe I want to make the whole egg one color. Remember, if you're switching colors, we're going to wash out our brush so our colors don't get all mixed up. When our watercolors are wet, if they touch in the same place, the colors will run and stick together. So I've got a wet puddle of green, I've got a wet puddle of red. I'm gonna leave that white space in between so that my colors don't get all mixed up and run together. Unless if that's what I want it to do. Here's a nice blue color, and I'm gonna try to leave a little space between my blue and my green. So wax resist is the process that helped our Ukrainian Easter eggs have their beautiful designs. But you don't have to have those special tools or even an egg to make something similar. You can make a wax resist design on your paper It can be an egg design, or it can just be some fancy, interesting, invisible writing. Whatever you choose, have some fun. Try out crayons and watercolor paints to make a wax-resist design.
Hello, awesome artists. I'm Mrs. Baines, a art educator at Carnes Elementary School, and I'm here today to read to you a story, and we have to thank Scholastic Books for giving us permission to do so. This is called This Little Artist, an art history primer. This Little Artist, an art history primer by Joan Holub and Daniel Rood. Painting, shaping, making art with creative joy, hands, and heart. Little artists have great big imaginations. Michelangelo. This little artist had Italy impressed. An architect, painter, and poet, he liked making sculptures best. Michelangelo is famous for painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and for his David and Pietà sculptures. Mary Cassatt. This little artist chose to portray moms and their kids at home and at play. Mary Cassatt painted tender, loving moments in the everyday lives of women and children, which was an unusual subject in the late 1800s. Vincent Van Gogh. This little artist painted pictures of his face, a starry, starry night, and sunflowers in a vase. Vincent Van Gogh applied thick paint with wild brushstrokes to show his feelings. This little artist made blue art for a while, switched to rosy colors, then painted Cubist style. Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque began the Cubism art movement, showing objects broken into angled shapes. Georgia O'Keeffe. This little artist painted very large flowers, animal skulls, and skyscraping towers. Georgia O'Keeffe sat in her car or camped in a tent to keep away from bugs and the hot sun while painting nature in New Mexico. Alexander Calder. This little artist built a toy circus from springs, cranks, balloons, buttons, and other small things. Alexander Calder made hanging metal and wire sculptures that are called mobiles, or kinetic art, because they can move. Salvador Dali. This little artist liked attention and fun. His melting clocks and wild mustache startled everyone. Salvador Dali was a surrealist. Objects in his art often looked strange or melted. Frida Kahlo. This little artist painted her life story with symbols of Mexico to celebrate its glory. Frida Kahlo was often ill in bed, where she would paint with a special easel. She made 55 pictures of herself called self-portraits. Andy Warhol. This little artist used objects like soup cans to make pop art paintings that delighted his fans. Andy Warhol began as a shy advertising artist. He became a superstar with many famous friends. Jean-Michel Basquiat. This little artist was a great poet too. He mixed words with doodles as he painted and drew. Jean-Michel Basquiat used ideas from pop culture, street life, and his Haitian and Puerto Rican heritage in his artwork. Crayons, paper, paint, or clay. What will you use to make art today? There are many other artists pictured here that were not already mentioned in the story. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Claude Monet, Faith Ringgold, Barbara Kruger, Keith Haring, Dale Chihuly, and even you. What did these artists inspire you to make? Because little artists have great big imaginations. Thank you again to Scholastic Books for allowing us to share this story with our little artists today. After hearing about these different artists, we're going to focus on the work of Georgia O'Keeffe and look at some of her paintings of large flowers. Georgia was known for using lots of color and filling her page, making sure to show all the details of the flowers as if you were looking very up close to them. Enjoy looking at these images and try to get some ideas for how you could create a very large flower in the style of Georgia O'Keeffe. So you're going to start wherever you would like the center of your flower. And I'm going to choose a circle for that. And then as you draw your petals, you want to make sure that you take your petals all the way out to the edge of your paper. A petal should be touching each side of your paper. And you can add as many or as few petals as you want. Make them as thick or thin as you want. Once you've got your petals drawn, you can add leaves and patterns to the background. I'm going to use spirals, but use whatever type of pattern you would like. You could do lines, you could do blobs of color, you could do geometric shapes, you could do whatever you would like to in the background. I chose a spiral pattern to mimic the spiral I'm going to use in the center of my flower. Then you will outline it with a marker. I'm using a black Crayola marker if you have an ink pen or whatever material you would like. And if you don't want to outline it, you don't have to. And then I will add color with crayons. Before you outline and color, this would be a good time to add details and shading. I'm using some cross-hatching on the leaves. You can add the veins to your leaves or petals if you wish. Whatever you would like to add those close-up details like Georgia O'Keeffe would in her flowers. As I finish my outlining, I will begin to use my crayons to add color. If your crayons don't look like mine, that's okay. They still work the same. Use whatever material you would like to add color to your flower. I'm using warm colors on my flower petals, oranges, yellows, and a dark pink. And I'm using cool colors in the background on my leaves and my spirals to show contrast. Warm colors are yellows, red, orange, and cool colors are green, blue, and violet. And you can see those shown on the color wheel. Yellow also happens to be purple's complementary color, and orange happens to be blue's complementary color. So that was another reason I chose contrasting colors on my flower. You could also reference the color wheel to help you choose what colors you would like to use on your flower. Thank you so much for joining with us today. I hope you had a great time creating artwork of your own. Remember that you're very talented and capable of making amazing art.